Hello everyone and welcome back to This Is Real Life. I'm your host Sheri and we are on location again at Teacher Jen's house because if you watched our last video when we did the amazing wall treatment in Jen's master bedroom, you will know that I am here because Jen wants a bunch of things done in her house and she called in a professional to come in and look at things and take her ideas so that they could give her an estimate on what it would cost to do everything that she wanted to do. Well, lo and behold, the person that came out here pretty much told Jen that all of her ideas were dumb. They thought that she should do X, Y, Z. And she was like, no. So she asked me if I wouldn't mind coming out and taking care of the things that she needed done. And I said, of course I will. Because, you know, Jen took me in when I had no place to live. I owe her the world. So yes, anything she needs done, I am here for. Now, there are two projects that Jen needs done that I'm a little bit nervous about, and this is one of them. Now, I'm not nervous because I don't think it can be done. I'm just nervous because I want it to look as professional as possible. You know, sometimes when we're doing DIYs in our own house for our own selves, we're like, it's a little crooked, but it's fine. This is in my house, so I want to make sure everything is completely perfect. For this project, what Jen would like done is she would like to update her staircase, her banister in particular. And she showed me the inspiration picture. Doable. However, what I am a little bit nervous about is, number one, the banister right now has the professional manufacturer paint job on it. Totally durable, has lasted her through the years, hands, kicks, whatever. What I'm nervous about is, will my paint job be as durable as the paint that's currently there? Will my paint job look as smooth and professional as the paint that is currently there? Those are the things that weigh heavy on my mind and make me not sleep at night. Now, we all know the proper steps when painting. We know that we need to sand, we need to prime, we need to sand again. We may need to prime again. Sand in between each coat. Thankfully, she does not want the entire banister painted because all the little spindles in between a banister shoot me now. There's no way. She wants the bigger banister pieces painted black and the handrail painted black. In the grand scheme of things, not a terrible project. Time consuming? Yes, but not terrible. I'm just really concerned about the durability of my paint job. I know in the end it's gonna be fine. It's gonna be durable. I don't know why I'm making myself so nervous about it. I'm excited about this transformation because I think it will look badass. And if you have a staircase and you're looking to spruce it up, bring a little bit of an update to your otherwise drab either wood or white staircase, this is a good way to do it. So part of me is just start at the beginning. But then there's another part of me that's maybe you should start in an inconspicuous spot just in case shit goes awry. Up there at the top of the stairs. And I think I may do that to make sure everything goes smoothly before I sand, primer, and paint all of the other ones. So let's get into it. I picked this one first. She wants all of these big banister things painted along with the handrail. We're gonna leave the base white and these little spindles white. We know the proper steps. They're time-consuming steps, but they need to be done in order for you to achieve the most perfect finish. Because I know that we aren't doing the base or these spindles, I want to protect them with some painter's tape. Sheri, you never use painter's tape. Again, not my house. So I'm not gonna use painter's tape so much because I don't want black paint to get on here. What I'm gonna use painter's tape for is I don't want my sandpaper to scratch up any of the surrounding areas. While I did bring my palm sander, and it will make quick work, I felt like I just wanted to hand sand this first one. Again, this first one is just our let's get ready to rumble tester stair banister thing. What are these called? I got this little sanding block. It's technically sandpaper already, but I am going to just wrap a piece of 120 sandpaper around it This just gives me something to hang on to. And then I'm going to just quickly give this area all around just some tooth so that when we put our primer coat on, it has something to adhere to. Not a big deal. We're gonna tape this off and then I'm gonna sand everything real quick and then we're gonna primer. Nothing too terrible. If there are little dings, I do want to try to get those smooth, but I'm not looking to sand this completely down to its bare wood. Just roughing up this surface a little bit so our primer coat adheres. I do want to kind of make sure that I get the edges real good because those are the parts that are going to get like the most wear and tear. Okay, I think that's good. I am gonna wipe this down with a damp cloth and then I'm gonna grab our primer and we're gonna start to roll that on. I've taken my damp cloth, I've wiped this down. I have a little tray here full of really good self-leveling primer as well as a 1.5 inch brush to cut in everything. And then I have this I bought it because it said finest finish on it, foam roller. So I'm thinking that we'll cut in with our brush into all the tight areas, and then for these large smooth surfaces, we'll use this roller. And then I was just thinking like, okay, dum-dum, you're gonna do this. Well, you're not gonna wait hours and hours for the primer to dry before you can sand it and then paint it. So even though we're calling this our test one, I might as well start sanding this guy. I might as well start sanding that guy. Yeah, we're gonna do this one and then we'll sand everything. And by the time that's done, then we can come back here and maybe get a coat of black on just to see what's happening. I just wanna get a feel for it, you know? So yeah, let's prime. Okay, so our first primer coat is done. We wanna make sure, everything is built off of this first primer coat. So we wanna make sure it's as smooth as it can possibly be. I've looked all around. I've made sure I don't have any drip marks anywhere. The surface looks pretty smooth all the way around. So we're gonna let that dry and then we're gonna come back in with a 150 grit sandpaper and do a real light sanding. And then after that sanding, we should be able to paint it black. I know. So while we're waiting for this to dry, which is not ideal, I should not be sanding while there's wet paint. But I'm gonna go down here, and since I'm hand sanding, it's not creating that much dust. I'm really happy with the primer coat. I might tape those off a little better, maybe like 1, 2, 3, and then maybe by the time I get done taping, this might be dry enough, and then I won't be sanding while this is wet. Okay, I taped every single one of these big ones off. I also taped around here, even though I know eventually I'm gonna be painting the handrail as well. I feel like I'm gonna do all of these first and then bust out the handrail all at one time. I do feel like our primer coat is pretty dry, but I think before I go and sand this, I'm gonna go and sand all of the other big pieces so that everything has a first sanding and then we can go and primer those and then come back. So let's sand some more. Okay, so I have all of the big banister pieces sanded and wiped down. I know you're probably like, Sheri, seriously, stop being so wishy-washy. But I feel like I'm just gonna go and prime them all. I'm just gonna prime them all, then we'll sand them all, then we'll black paint them all, and it'll be great. So it's priming time, and actually she's got, what is this? 8 big ones of these total. So the sanding, the wiping down, that didn't take any time at all. You saw me prime this one. It didn't really take that much time. Yeah, I'm gonna start priming all of them. Okay, so it has been about 3 hours. I've gotten all of the large ones of these painted. I just don't feel comfortable sanding them right now. So I'm actually gonna just let them sit overnight, and then I'm gonna come back in the morning and do the sanding and then start painting the black. But I am very impressed with this primer. When I sent Jen to the paint store, I said, please make sure you get a really good water-based self-leveling primer. And boy, did she. If this primer is any indication of how the black is going to go on, I have no worries whatsoever. So yeah, I'll see you in the morning. So it's a new dawn, it's a new day. I am back at Teacher Jen's, and she's actually going to be here any minute, and she is going to help with the finishing of these major pieces in the stair banister. I really should probably Google what these things are called. I feel like these are called like balusters. I don't know if the big one is the same. Doesn't really matter. We're painting them. I feel super good. The primer coat is amazing. We do have to lightly sand it. We started sanding with a 120 just to give it a little bit of tooth, but now we're gonna go up to a super fine, extra fine 320 grit sandpaper to prep it for our black coat of paint. I'm not sanding to take off the primer, like maybe there is like a tiny drip, anything like that. We're just gonna lightly, like ever so gently sand this, and then we're gonna start painting our black. I'll tell you what, these little sanding blocks, they're really nice to use if you are hand sanding. They just have a nicer little grip on them. Jen had to run a quick errand, so I'm hoping that I can get all of the sanding done before she gets back. And then when she gets here, we're gonna start painting. Nothing special here. Like I said, a very, very light. I'm gonna rip my sheet of sandpaper into 4 pieces and then wrap it around that little sanding block. It's kind of nice because I just hold it like that, and then very lightly, right here I feel like that's a little bump. I'm gonna just go over that and make that real smooth. So we are gonna do 2 black coats. We're gonna sand in between each coat, but we want everything as perfectly smooth as possible. So that final black coat is, and it looks like it came that way, not like we DIY'd it. That's the goal. Unlike the table that we redid, where we did like black and sand, and then we did a clear coat over the top of that black, we're not doing that here. The black is going to be the final. What did we get? Oh, we got a satin. So it is gonna have a sheen, and satin or semi-gloss are a more durable paint. So we're not gonna clear coat this. We don't want it extra shiny. We're just gonna paint the 2 black coats. When that second black coat is on, that is the final finish. So again, I can't stress enough, everything needs to be really smooth. So take your time. Yay! Jen's here, my lovely assistant. And I've already sanded these smooth, and we just made a run to get foam brushes because you know how I was cutting in with a paintbrush, which was great. However, I could just see like where I cut in like little brush strokes, and then the rest was like roller, and I just didn't like it. I didn't like it.
It wasn't perfect.
Yeah, not that anybody, you have to be like this to see exactly like, oh, there's like a 1/4 inch of a brush stroke. I just didn't like it. So we ran over to a hardware store and we picked these up. Jen is gonna help, and we are going to get the first coat of black. I know. I'm so excited. It's gonna make such a huge difference, just like your wall. I just love everything about it. I think you're gonna be the cutter inner, and I'm gonna be the roller.
I'm gonna cut.
And you're gonna cut. So that's what we're gonna do. So Jen's cutting in, and she's using the skinniest of skinniest foam brushes, and she's cutting in all of the parts, and then I am gonna go in with a roller and create a very smooth finish. Once that dries, we're gonna lightly sand, and then we're gonna do our second and hopefully final coat. Jen, what would you call these big pieces?
I don't know. Columns of the banister?
Yeah, again, it doesn't matter what they're called, they're the big pieces. So that's what we're focusing on today. Oh, sookie, sookie, look at that. Now, this first coat, we do want to make everything as smooth as possible, but we might have a little white peeking through. We don't want to keep rolling over, but that's okay because we are gonna lightly sand and do our final finish coat. So don't think like, oh, I can still see the primer, I need to keep packing on the paint. No, just smooth, even. You know what I mean. It doesn't need to be thick and gross, and don't try to keep going over the same area because that's when you're gonna create those marks that you don't want in your final finish. So this is what we're doing on 8 of these. Okay, we have done the official first coat. It looks good. Do it again, do it again. It looks so good. I know, we've let it dry, so everything's like good and ready to go. So now it's the final.
Yeah.
We're gonna lightly sand, and then we're gonna do our final black coat, and we're gonna take extra special care and make sure it's super smooth. Then we'll be done. But not technically all the way done, because now that these are done, the next step, which will happen not today, but we're gonna do all of the handrails are gonna be black as well. It's just more of the same. Sanding, priming, painting, not priming, sanding, painting,
Yes.
whatever. 320 grit sandpaper, just on our little situation right here. We're gonna lightly hand sand. Again, what we're trying to notice is if there are any little, maybe like a little fuzz got caught in there, or a tiny little drip we need to sand, because however we sand this is how that black coat's gonna lay on the top. And we don't wanna do this again. So,
Much pressure.
I know, it is a lot of pressure. I feel like you get it. It's sanding, it's painting. So that's what we're doing. Okay, we are back at Teacher Jen's for day 3 of the staircase transformation. As you can see, our big banister pieces are painted, they're dry, they look fucking amazing. So all I have left to do is the handrail on this side and this side of the staircase. Jen and I thought long and hard about it, and she just wants the handrail. These little guys, they kind of go up into the handrail. Now, her inspiration photo, it made like a jig, so it was like black, white, black, white. She was contemplating that, but since we're not doing the bottom, this is all gonna be white. We thought the better option for the look she is going for is a nice clean line. Instead of cutting around this little banister where it gets into the handrail, I'm going to make a sharp line so that we paint all of this black. So we just have one crisp, clean black line and no So it's more of the same. We need to sand, wipe everything down, then we need to get a coat of primer. Then I wanna let that primer dry for, overnight. Come back tomorrow to finish this up, and it'll all be black. So, nothing you don't already know. I have my little sandpaper sanding block. I'm gonna use the 120 grit, go over this with my hand, wipe it all down, and then paint a primer coat. First, I am going to tape the line because again, I don't want to sand this part at all. I don't want to risk that. I have to tape this side as well as the other side. And then we will sand. Well, that was the longest tape job ever on the planet. There are 59 of these little guys, plus the wall in 4 areas. I was taking my time, I'm not gonna lie. It took 2.5 hours to tape all of this because I was using surgeon-like precision to make sure that not only were my tape lines super straight, but they were super pressed in, because the last thing I want is bleed through on this. I need a crisp, clean line. Now that I have all of that done, I can start sanding. But yeah, taping off 59 of these guys plus 4 walls. Oh, and let me just show you. It's not like a straight line at the wall. Curve on this side, curve down here, curve on the other side, this curve on that side, curve up here. But look at, how precise. I had to do that times 4, by the way. Rough that up, give the handrail a little bit of tooth so that my primer has something to stick to. All the handrails are sanded and wiped down, and I am ready to prime. Because I don't want any bleed through, I am gonna take a little bit of primer and brush from the tape line up. That primer will create a nice seal on the tape so that when we do black, hopefully we won't have any bleed through. You definitely don't want to go down into your tape line. You want to brush from your tape line up. Even though the primer is white, these aren't exactly white, and so you probably would notice, and since we're not painting these, we want to try to be as careful as possible. And then I'll go in and do all of this, the underneath of here. I did bring in my roller, my little foam roller, which I am loving these guys. They're so nice. They did such a lovely job on these. Hashtag not sponsored. I just bought them because they said something like finest finish on them, and they're amazing. So yeah, I'm primering now. All primering is done. It took a little bit longer than I thought it would, but handrails primered. The only situation I can't quite figure out, this handrail up against this wall. You would think, oh, take out these little gold things and then it'll come away from the wall. But no, it's hooked into the wall here, and then it's hooked up to the top up there. So if I take these out, it might give a little bit away from the wall, but not a lot. Maybe tomorrow morning I'll get like an idea. Maybe I'll have to like tape off this wall or put plastic or something. I don't know. But guess what? Priming's done. We're letting it rest overnight, and then I will come back tomorrow and we will paint it black. I see a red door and I want to paint it black. Anyways, I'm going a little crazy because it's taken me a while today. But now I'm done and I'm going home and I'm going to bed. Well, I'll eat and then I'll go to bed. See you tomorrow. Okay, so we are back at Teacher Jen's. It is day 4. I have gone through and sanded and wiped down all of the primered handrails, and then I decided that yes, I will put paper on this wall because the only way to get behind here, my hand is the only thing that fits. So I'm Tim gunning it, and then I took a foam brush and I ripped off the foam part. It's gonna sound crazy because no one can really see what's behind the handrail except for in a very few spots. I am going to glove up my hand, dip this in paint, and then run the sponge along the back side. I'll probably have to do that like 2 or 3 times just to make sure it's like a good solid black. I'm not concerned with sanding back behind there. I just need to make it look black. That's the plan. And I will probably do that first so that I can take care of any like drips or weirdness before I paint like the finished area on all the rest of the handrails. Sanded, wiped down, taped up, sponged up, and we're ready to go. Okay, honestly, if you guys haven't figured it out by now, I'm brilliant. And the gloved sponge method to get back behind here worked brilliantly and went super fast. Clearly, I've just done 1 coat, but let me just show you. As you can see, you really can't. I mean, you could cock your head and try to get behind there. We do want it to be black, but as you're going up, you do get a little bit of the backside here. Obviously, it's not solid black, but a couple more coats. Really, who's looking back here? Nobody. But guess what? It's fucking painted, that's for sure. And then as you make your way up, we still have wall, but I can see right here. Look how good that looks. And it was with a sponge in my hand. And then the main part of this rail is from this side, which I can get a brush in between here and do this so it's much smoother, but even still, can't nobody tell you I'm not a genius. So for those of you who have a similar situation, let's go over the steps. Get yourself one of these. Rip off, it comes off actually quite easy. Just rip off this part. I even left the plastic on it. Get some disposable gloves. Mine are kind of sweaty on the inside. Glove up with 2 hands. Take your little sponge and just dip the wedged part, don't dunk it all in. Just dip the wedge part into your paint. Just like you would a paintbrush, wipe off the excess on one side. So now you have the side with the paint. Just stick your hand under here and don't press super hard because we don't wanna risk like squeezing paint out. Just give it a nice little rub. And then make sure we're taking care of any like drip areas by gently brushing the underneath. Dip in again, come from above. Same thing, nice and gentle. Make sure you get into the wedge and voila, the back of your banister is painted. I know, right? Now you may be saying, what about these gold things? You're getting paint all over them. Well, I'm barely getting paint on them. It doesn't really matter because it's metal, so the paint will clean up quite easily. While I'm also doubly not worried about it is because Jen and I are actually gonna take these off. Jen wants to spray paint them so they're not so brassy gold. While I don't want huge clumps of paint on them, any paint you do get on them will scrape right off with probably your fingernail, to be quite honest. So yeah, shall we call it the glove sponge technique for painting the back of a banister that is wall mounted that you can't get to? Use the glove sponge technique, patent pending. Okay, so I have put 2 coats on the back of the handrail that is mounted to the wall. This area right here, I took a lot of extra time because obviously you can see it through these slats. I did use the gloved sponge technique, and instead of like wiping right here, I did like a tappa method to really get the paint on nice and thick. So we have full coverage right here and then full coverage in all of those little corner areas that you could possibly maybe see if you were walking up the stairs. So now it is on to the main handrails. I'm gonna go ahead and cut in with a regular paintbrush around all my edges, up underneath here, all of that good stuff. And then I will go over it with a roller because I just wanna make sure that what we've done on these giant pillaries, the paint technique matches. Even though it would be really much easier to just paint the whole handrail with a brush, I do wanna go over it with the roller so I get that same sort of a smooth yet stipply, if that makes any sense. You know, it's like as you're going along, you kind of like finesse your painting technique. Part of me is like, maybe I'll do the first coat in all brush because I just think that's gonna be faster. Who knows? But point of the story is handrails. We're on it right now with a brush, with a foam roller, with a foam sponge, and maybe a glove. Who knows? But the end result's gonna be beautiful, and that's all I care about. Let's get to painting. Okay, so I have coat 1 done on all of the handrails. It took me 3 hours to do. Obviously, coat 1 is not the finished coat, so I need to do a coat 2. It's now in this project, if you undertake something like this, that you will say, let's just skip a step. And believe you me, I am thinking that same thing. Do I really need to lightly sand in between these coats? Can't I just do coat 2 right over the top of coat 1 and then call it done? You could, but I don't think you would be satisfied with the outcome, even though you want to skip a step because you're almost done. There is a light at the end of the tunnel. Don't skip a step because you've already put so much time and so much energy into the project that skipping a step, doing the final steps kind of half-assish and maybe even sloppily is just going to negate all of the hard work that you've done so far. Don't talk yourself into skipping a step. It is sanding time. We do need to sand between our first coat and our second and final coat. I do have my 320 grit sandpaper and my little sanding block, and I'm gonna ever so gently and ever so quickly do a quick sanding, especially under here in between each of these little rungs. There could possibly be a drip mark that I missed or something. So we want to sand that smooth because our second coat is our final coat. We want these handrails to match the perfection of our big guys here. Lightly sand, I know, it sucks balls. We're so close to being done. But don't worry, this little sanding is gonna go quick. Once we sand, we're gonna wipe it down and then put on our second coat, and then we'll be done. I know, right? It's looking pretty good, huh? I will tell you that, I hope and pray that the time that I took to tape off each one of these banisters pays off, because if I peel these off and there is a bunch of touch-up work to do, I might throw myself off of this banister. Just saying. Every time I'm painting, I'm like, oh my God, please don't bleed through, please don't bleed through. Cross your fingers for that. I'm gonna go sand now. Okay, sanding and wiping down did not take any time at all. 30 minutes and you'll be good to go. So now it is totally prepped for our final coat. What I think I'm going to do is use a combination of my brush, a sponge brush, and then the roller to just give it that same texture as this. And as I finish one, I'm gonna start removing the tape, where we all need to hold our breath and cross our fingers. Okay? Okay. So coat 2 on this upper handrail is done. And you may have noticed during, my super speed that I was taking the sponge brush and doing a tapping method. And you may think, why are you sponge painting it? In where there's curves and little fine areas, I felt like wiping was not leaving the same effect as a roller. So to achieve that more stipply roller look, doing the little tappa 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 makes the curve in here blend with the roller. That's a technique that I found that works, where it looks like the finish is all the same. Not quite dry, but we are done and we're ready to remove. I know, you guys. Okay, if you notice any bleed through, don't say anything. Just keep it to yourself. If there is any bleed through, I feel I can clean it up. It will be tedious cleanup, but it is achievable cleanup. But let's cross our fingers and just hope there's no bleed through. I doubt on 59 of these, we're gonna have 0 bleed through. There's gonna be some. I'd love for there to be none, but there's probably gonna be some. Let's take it off. I'll bring you in for a closer look. But again, if you see anything, just keep it to yourself. Now that you're close up, look at how nice this looks. And it blends right in with our thick pillars. I know, I'm prolonging it, but let's just try one. Now we need to be careful. Our paint is still wet. Oh, 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 oh. Are you seeing what I'm seeing? Look at that line. Guys, that line looks good. Oh my gosh. That looks fucking seamless. Okay, I know it's our first one, but good sign, right? I think Jen's gonna be so happy with that. Okay, I should just end there on a good note, but let's try this one. I'd love to see them all come off perfectly. Ooh, that one looks good. Now, obviously we can't see the back side, but we're just gonna think it looks perfect too. That one's good. Mine is right there. My tape kind of overshot, so I need to go in with a little bit of black just to cut in right there, but I think it's good. Okay, point of the story is, my tape is looking good. Second point of the story is, I need to hurry up and finish these banisters, otherwise I'm gonna be here till midnight. I'm gonna knock the rest of these handrails out, take off all my tape, and the next time you guys see it, it'll be done. Super excited. Okay, it's really super fucking late right now, but I am done. Are you guys ready for the final reveal? It's pretty amazing. Dun, 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 dun. It is beautiful. I literally just finished painting that handrail right this second. Oh, and look, that little corner that you might see, it's painted black. We're going up the stairs. Oh, look at this. It's beautiful. Oh, and all my tape lines turned out amazing. I didn't have one bleed through. Look at those lines. Look at it in all of its glory. I love it so much. Okay, so Jen wasn't here for the final reveal because she was out gallivanting. Wait, where were you?
Was I in Las Vegas?
That's neither here nor there because she saw her stairs.
I wasn't here.
And, yeah,
I was
she
there.
wasn't here. She was there. She came home after I left.
It was amazing. They look so good. It was all I had dreamt of, and it'd been a long time.
It does
and
look really good.
It was so sharp, crisp, and I love it so much.
I know. I'm not going to say, look at the lines.
The lines are perfect.
I mean, there's a little bit of touch-ups we need to do along the bottom, and I also want to do some wax.
Okay.
Just gives it a little bit more durability because...
Because life.
Well, yeah, someone nicked up there already. I know. I'm so glad you like them because I really like them. And I think they look,
It transforms the space.
it just makes the whole thing, it's just not your typical, white.
It's not typical anything, and that's what I'm going for.
I
just want
love
to
it.
be
I love it so much.
More personality,
Yeah.
more style.
I love it. Right when you walk in the door, it's like, bam! Yeah, it definitely sets the tone.
For sure.
Yeah. So now you know, Jen obviously has been helping me with the projects around her house. Next up, we're gonna work on painting all of her interior doors, so stick around for that. But I think she has the DIY bug. So I'm gonna have her tell you what she did. What did you do?
Okay, so I may have, or I did.
I maybe did.
I bought a palm sander. That was one of her favorite things. I
Yes.
haven't used it yet, but I have a project that I do plan to use it on. I want to sand and refinish and restain a bench seat.
Yeah.
But I have already used my pressure washer.
So you went to the Lowe's.
I went to the Lowe's.
She went to the Lowe's and bought a palm sander and a pressure washer.
And then I pressure washed my entire backyard.
So her back patio area is huge. So you pressure washed that, and then what'd you do?
And then I painted it white. I
Yeah.
didn't need many tools for that, but I had a lot of skills that I had been utilizing for other painting things we were doing.
I
So
know.
it was fun. It was super fun, and I surprised her with that as far as
Yeah, I had no idea that she was going to the Lowe's to buy a palm sander and a pressure washer. Well, you had mentioned you wanted to paint your patio white, and I was like, yeah, we'll get to that, lady.
Eventually.
And then, lo and behold, it's white.
And it's because last year we spent a lot of time out on the patio. It was so nice, and we did a bunch of stuff. But this year I wanted to spend more time on the patio. I'm like, well, that will make it look
I know.
fresher, newer, and nicer.
So I converted one. Yay!
And if we can do it,
You can do it! Yeah, very exciting. Converted, DIYer. She's got plans happening. She's buying tools and shit, which is super exciting. So, see, like she said, if she can do it, if I can do it, you can do it. So, if you like this video, please be sure to give it a big thumbs up. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the channel. Be sure to ring that notification bell so that you are alerted to all of the DIY Wednesday videos I push out, which is every other Wednesday at 5:30 Pacific Standard Time. Make sure you share this video with your family and friends. And as always, thanks for hanging out.